What's going on, guys? It's been a little bit. I haven't really grabbed a camera this past late half of the week, so I have good news and I have bad news. So I'm going to give you the bad news first. Drag week's in 13 days and my car's apart. But the good news is we got this girl back in the garage. So I spent the past couple days over at the machine shop. We verified everything. We checked all my bores, all my clearances, and everything's great. We actually determined that the rings are still good, so we're going to reuse the rings. We are just changing bearings. I'm going to try these Kings Racing bearing. I got my entire rag, like this. Yeah, this rag. This is all full with the bearings, right? So remember I told you guys, like, I sent some stuff through the motor, and that's kind of why I did this. Like, you can see some scoring. It does look significantly worse on camera, so don't be like too worried. But this we found is the guy. This is where the main stuff, you can see that copper line. That was the big chunk that actually went through. So the other good news is, as far as it comes to thrust, we measured these in comparison to another brand new Clevite thrust, and I only had 1/1000th wear on the thrust. And as a turbo car with a Power Glide, that's pretty freaking awesome. You know, in the terms of the racing world, the thrust is always one of those very worried about things, because anytime that you have pressure on the converter up against the crank, it's, you know, pushing the crank. And it's really awesome to know that, I mean, this car has, or these these bearings have been in this engine now for a year and a half. I'd figure about 100 passes, about 800 miles on the street, and the thrust has like zero wear at all. It's really awesome to see that, because that's one of the things that I've been worried about, but, well, I guess it's no longer a worry. I mean, I know the combination is absolutely killer right now. The converter I have has been working great. Transmission is killer. So it's been good knowing that everything's been well. So yeah, so like I said, we have everything here. Now the one thing that was rather surprising, if you'll notice in this box, we still have a connecting rod. So this was actually in the engine. This was piston number 6, or rod number 6. And turns out when we checked the clearance of the actual rod end where the bearing is, it was egg shaped. So it was kind of alarming. It was the only one that was really out of whack. And it was, I mean, it was a very tight tolerance still, but we started looking around and we squared up the rod, and we found actually the rod's actually pretty bent. It's kind of, I won't be able to show you on camera, but just take my word for it. It does have bending to it. So fortunately, these Gen 4 LS rods are pretty common. So we did end up finding one the same exact weight, and we switched it over on the piston, and we're good to go now. So I have the full set of 8. We polished the crank, and then I just have the blocks in here. I did pull the cam out. Everything's good with the cam. So the homie Miggy will be coming over this evening, and we're going to be plopping this together. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I have all the gaskets and everything else I need to put this motor in. I did decide to buy a new oil pump. You can see where there was scoring on my previous oil pump, but for how inexpensive these things are, it's worth it just to replace it. So it's awesome. From what I'm expecting, this pile of parts will be completely together on that, in there, and there is I would say a good possibility this car will be running tomorrow. Now, I do still have the stuff at powder coat, so I don't have the Y pipe and I don't have the coolant cans, but I should still be able to start it, you know, let it warm up just a little bit, and then, you know, make sure the car is still a car. So I did end up putting together, I showed you guys the passenger sides together, the driver side's back together now. And then tomorrow, whenever the motor and tranny are set in the car, then we can put the front subframe back on. Then I will replace all those suspension components, like the tie rods, the ball joints, stuff like that. So I'm pretty much on standby. You know, this is something that I prefer Miggy to do. So in the meantime, I'm actually just going to be scraping up where the gaskets go, like the water gaskets and stuff like that. I'm going to prep everything else that I can that doesn't involve the rods, pistons, and crank. And then basically just get everything ready to keep going forward. So as of now, knock on wood, we have everything we need. And we still have 13 days. So I'm pretty happy. Brian did get back to me. Unfortunately, he has not been able to spray the tank with the lizard skin yet. So he said he might be spraying it Sunday. So if we do get the car running tomorrow, we'll just have to loosely put the gas tank in the trunk. That way I can at least just hook up the fuel lines and then go from there. I do actually have to call him. He needs to come over and adjust the trans band. But anyway, I'm pretty thrilled. We got a good bit of work ahead of us. So I will basically continue this clip when Miguel gets here. All right, so it's a few hours later. I don't even know what time it is. What time is it? It is 10:20. Miggy's over here, my savior for the day. Hello. Hi, Miggy. Hello. And he cleaned everything up real thoroughly. Put the bottom main bearings in right now, and now he's working on the caps. And in the meantime, I actually took the pressure washer and I finally cleaned up the front subframe. I removed the internal dump off the trans. I've been doing all the stuff that I need to do on the side. I got the front cover ready with a new front main seal. So I've pretty much done as much as I can before Miggy got here. And then I cleaned the deck surfaces, so by the time we're ready to do this, I can literally just lube up the head gaskets and throw them on as well. So really there's not any holdups anymore. It's just this is the most time consuming part. And just because it's finicky. Yeah, it's very finicky. So Miggy, how do you feel about a year and a half in, 100 passes? How do you feel what we did with this engine?
Hey man, the thing lasted a beating. You really don't owe this motor anything.
No. That's what I've been saying for the longest time.
That's just doing stuff the right way, being preemptive, making sure your clearances are where they need to be. All the little stuff that most people don't do, but it'll preserve your engine, and this is a perfect example of it, because this motor didn't have an easy life, and look at it. What did I have, a bent rod and a couple hurt rod journals?
And honestly, most of the issues wrong with this engine are it's my fault, because this bearings would have been fine if I didn't send some shit through the motor. So, but I mean, it's just a big lesson to learn over time. I got very fortunate. And like we both agree, I mean, this motor doesn't really owe me anything at this point. It's been rock solid. The car's been really fast. And it's just cool. It's been a great year.
Not even just that, street car stuff too.
Yeah.
Drove it on the street.
So, I mean.
What, Miata's at the Gap, and where else?
Yeah, went to Miata's at the Gap. I've been driving I've been driving around a bunch of places. I went to Miata's at the Gap twice. So this engine.
Same engine?
Yeah. This short block has not been apart since he assembled it in this garage. That would have been April or March of 2020.
I'm horrible with dates.
Now, I will say I had to change head gaskets twice. The first time was because at the time we had that really small 76, 75 turbo on it. So the back pressure was through the roof. And I bought the Chinese head studs. So with all those things combined, but I mean, the last time I did head gaskets, it didn't need them, but that's when we found that I had the notched heads instead of the full casting head. So I actually had the wrong gasket on that head. And even still, with how fast I gone and how many passes I made on those, that was incredible.
Yeah, man, so, it's just preventative maintenance. People think, oh, if it ain't broke, sometimes if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It does work, but on a motor you're gonna beat on, it's better to just be preemptive.
Yeah.
Take the cylinder heads off, get them checked, make sure you don't have a leaky valve. You know, there's no point to sacrifice performance and leave it on the table.
Correct.
Might as well be on kill.
You know, and if you guys don't really know Miggy, he is I mean, we've been friends since middle school. But he has a almost 800 horsepower B series Civic that he's actually doing some crazy stuff to now as well.
Yeah, put a dog box in it.
My man broke 150 transmissions. Now he's going big baller status.
No, man, I'm just tired of dropping transmissions every 8 passes. That's all it is.
So like in a normal like racing time, if you go to an event like a 3-day event, how many times do you break a trans? Just one good time?
It'll last 8 to 10 full power passes, and something will break.
That's insane.
What will break, I don't know, but something will start making noise and it'll just break.
And what's actually with his car too, I mean, he's got plenty left on the table as well. It's just he's had to keep it tame to keep that transmission living.
And even still, that didn't work.
Yeah, no, it's still broken. Even 980, 146?
Yeah, and then it went 9.9 at 152, and I got yelled at for not having a parachute. So now it has a parachute. So I can't get kicked out. It's got 10 point now.
And he finally upped his safety. This man, he went 9s with like no bars in the car.
No, I went 1030.
That's close. And then they got mad, and then he finally put some bars in the car, so he's finally being safe.
Sooner or later.
Meanwhile, I'm talking out my ass. I have an 820 car with an 850 cage.
Hey man, sometimes you just gotta push it.
I mean, yeah. The problem nowadays is just the technology and the advancements to the industry. I mean, the cars are getting really fast and a lot faster than we all expect. Now, when I put the cage in my car, I never expected to have 500 horsepower in a 4-cylinder, and well, here we are with 1,000 in a V8. So.
You can get out of hand really quick, man.
Yeah. It's just a boost controller away from having more fun. So we're gonna finish putting this together, and then we'll check up with you guys in a little bit. Alrighty guys, so it's a little bit quieter. It's 2 o'clock in the morning now. Miggy left, I think, about an hour ago. So we did end up getting the short block put together. Let's see, we got 4 pistons on this side, and then we got 4 pistons on this side. So I put the oil pump on, the timing, I put it in time, the oil pump, basically everything on the front. Just put the balancer on. It's torqued to freaking 230 foot-pounds. Got the pickup tube and everything on. Now, one thing I think I mentioned in a previous video, that I pinched the oil pickup O-ring, I guess, whenever I installed it. So when I just installed this one now, I just made sure that it went in straight and flat. So hopefully that won't be any issue. So basically now, I mean, I can put the heads on, pull it off the stand. I got to put the rear cover on and then put the oil pan on, and this will be a complete long block. So I'm gonna be honest, it's getting to that point where I could barely hold my eyes open. I just sat down to the chair for a minute and dozed off for a sec, so I know it's time for me to call it a night. So I mean, I made good progress today, definitely. I can't thank Miggy enough, and Jeff at CW Pence and Billy at CW Pence. They knocked out the engine real quick. You know, luckily everything that we had done prior when we put the engine together last year, everything still looks great. You know, we did have to change that rod, but honestly, that's not that big of a deal. Luckily, I'm in a place where we have the parts and the ability to change that real quick, so it's awesome. So I am actually going to be giving Jeff my entire set of spare rods and pistons. So it works out that I have that other engine that I can take the parts from. And since that's going to be a built motor, I don't need the rods and pistons. Now, there might be a time in the future where I need a rod and piston or two, but then I'll just have those, since those will be at Jeff's anyway. So I'm calling it a night. Like I said, tomorrow's going to be a long day as well. I know I got a couple buddies coming over to help me out, so that's going to be freaking awesome. But yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. So it's, what time is it, David? 7?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. We've been on this car probably since 1 o'clock. I woke up late. I went to bed late. My buddy David, my coworker, I've known him forever. He actually has painted the car in the past. We've worked together for 9 years now. But he showed up at my house and I wasn't even awake. He didn't even tell me he was coming. He just showed up, which was awesome of him. And I got the rest of the motor buttoned up. Got the heads on, the valve train's in, put the oil pan on, new flex plate, trans is already back there. David went and actually did all the suspension stuff. So new inner outer tie rod, new lower ball joints, greased the uppers, and every single bolt on this chassis right now is torqued. And David was always asking for something to do, so we have a list. So we did actually just mount the spares for the drag week trailer. So now I have 2, because the problem is the spare tires are not the same diameter as the skinnies, and I am not buying a spare skinny wheel and tire because that's just too much money. So I figured, since I already had the small tires this trailer came with, we'll have both of them as a spare. It doesn't hurt me to bring them. But if I have any issues with my skinny, we'll just slap both of them on, and you know, it is what it is. So that's cool. We're knocking out drag week project as well. But as far as the car goes, I mean, I'm extremely thrilled. Rear end's together, the front's pretty much together. I have to tie up everything underneath, you know, fuel hoses, shifter cable, stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do, but couldn't have done it without you, Dave. He's got to leave, so thank you, sir.
See ya.
Yes, so David's out, and I think I'm gonna keep trucking tonight. I gotta do a lot of cleanup, but I mean, the party's just getting started over here.